Hi everyone, my name is Jack Nanchenko. I'm the CTO and the co-founder at StellarSoft. Today I'm pleased to be joined by Alex Auroux, co-founder and CEO of Circle Sportswear, a brand building high-performance finance apparel and footwear with a very different model, made in Europe, designed around circularity and grounded in sustainability. You can actually document. We'll unpack Alex's journey into the CEO's role, how Circle found clarity as a brand, what's actually working in growth right now, and what it really takes to scale a values-led consumer brand without losing the plot. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jack, for having me today.
Absolutely. I do love to start it easy and learn about the guest and just so listeners know a little bit about you and about Circle. You came into the CEO role at a pretty pivotal moment for the company. What did you walk into, and what needed to change first?
Yeah, so to give you a bit of background, I was there from day one, but my role was different at the beginning. We were a team of four co-founders, and Circle is now 6 years old, and it took us really, I'd say, almost 5 years to find out our product market fit. So the
Mm-hmm.
first 4 years of the company, we were a multi-sport company. We were trying to build the supply chain in Europe, as you mentioned, and we can talk about that a bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
after 4 years, we realized that all the money we've raised was kind of gone, and that we needed to actually find and make like some hard decision about okay, who is our target audience, what is our product value proposition, and make the decision. So we actually cut down the team. I started my role as like just laying off a few people, not fun as a CEO, but it was building the ground to scale basically. And yeah, so really, I've been CEO for now 16 months, and it took us a year of cleaning everything, and we see
Mm-hmm.
that now 2026 is a year of growth for us.
Awesome. And like with that period and that transition, how did it change your and reshape your view of what Circle needed to become?
Well, when you start your company, you have big dreams, and you see yourself in like 20 years as maybe a successful brand, multi-sports, everything. But then you need to scale it down. Okay, what is the first step, the first stone that I need to build? And then we were really strong on yoga, we were really strong on running, and we had to make the decision between, okay, is the brand stronger in one or the other? And we decided to go with
Mm-hmm.
running because it resonated more with us.
Mm-hmm.
The Basically the market was also bigger, but the competition was like is fierce. Like running is a very difficult market to compete in. There are the dinosaurs
Yeah.
brands, there are the new indie brands.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you need to work out your point of differentiation, and yeah, that's why now it's Circle is even like a running club, and we can talk about that because that's a real key focus for us, community building.
Mm-hmm.
um, and yeah, it's been a hectic
Awesome.
journey, but we're loving the experience. I mean, if you've ever trained for a marathon, you've got highs and lows, you've got moments that you want to quit, but at the
Mm-hmm.
end, crossing the finish line, whatever the time you do is beautiful.
Awesome. And now that like the painful year is over and now like you're experiencing some growth day to day, where do you feel the most where do you feel your role is most critical right now?
Yeah, I think obviously as a CEO, my role has two different like facet of it. The first one is the
Mm-hmm.
strategic part, where
Mm-hmm.
for example, I'm constantly in discussion with our board of investors.
Mm-hmm.
We're always looking into how we can get some additional funds to grow the company. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but on the other side, I'm still very operational. I mean, we only a team of 10. We've recruited
Mm-hmm.
the key talents that we needed where I don't have the skills, for instance. But all the other
Uh-huh.
parts, I'm still, very happy to fill the gaps where we don't have the people to do it. Like we don't have an HR person, we don't have a logistical manager. So for that matter, I'm just doing what needs to be done so that the company is working. I'm a little bit like a mechanic that is helping the team and doing whatever needs to be done on the field. And one example to give you, I think something that is probably not done in a lot of companies. I'm still responding to every single email on the contact@circlesportswear.com email
Oh, wow. Okay.
because for me, it's also a way to be really connected with everybody that wants to email us. So I get all the
Mm-hmm.
inbounds for marketing, but for HR, and for product feedback. So that's I get the pulse of how Circle is being perceived constantly, every day, every single morning when I wake up.
Awesome. Sounds good. And as we're talking about Circle, then let's for anyone who is listening who is not familiar with Circle and what it is today, what is the company really building these days? What it is about? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I think we can go back to the name that we've chosen for the company. Circle at the beginning had a very strong meaning around circularity. So trying to build a different business model that is profitable, but at the same time less harmful to its environment, and that is
Mm-hmm.
basically is going to be protecting our playground. This is our mission, protecting our playground. How did it translate into a very strict list of requirements into how we wanted to basically make some new gears? So the t-shirt I'm wearing here has gone through a very strong sourcing process of finding partners here in Europe to create the fabrics, co-create the fabrics most of the time, using
Mm-hmm.
either recycled materials or natural fabrics. Recycled materials because as a circularity principle, we are reusing something that has already been produced. And natural fabrics, looking at, nature is the best example for circularity. If you respect the planet, it just, regenerates itself. So we look at, fabrics that has like organic cotton, tencel, which is a synthetic fabric made out of wood,
Mm-hmm.
or wool that is also a circular material. So we're looking at all of that, but here in Europe, because that's where we're based. And that was really hard to build the supply chain, to find the fabric partners, also the partners in Portugal where we actually make the garments. So that's the second step.
Mm-hmm.
You make the fabrics, then you
Mm-hmm.
make the garments,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure in the process that everything that we design has the end of life taken into account, to close the gap, to close the loop, so that we can either reuse some of the fabrics into making new gears, or we
Mm-hmm.
can make sure and ensure that the recycle process is simplified. And the last but not least is traceability of everything is key into recycling. So imagine you start and you want to recycle everything that has been produced. As a recycler, you get the fabric, whatever it is, and you need to find out what it is made of. And it's much harder if you haven't done the work of tracing the journey of that product to its material. So by having done that work ourselves from the beginning, when you want to recycle a circle product, you can easily look at, oh, that's actually that recycled polyester that was used. So therefore, I know exactly how chemically it's going to behave and what I can do with it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
to give you a simple example, you can't take all t-shirts, sports t-shirts, and
Mm-hmm.
recycle them. You need to separate them by color, by fabrics, by year it was made. So it becomes a very complex process. And that's something that we've done from the beginning, and that we realized because we had experts from the industry that work with the big brands that and they've seen that to change those companies within was really going to take a long time, and that therefore it was easier to start from scratch. because then you can put your own belief and foundation, and then start building on that foundation.
So you carry both community and circularity. How do these two ideas show up in the brand in practice?
Yeah. So I was mentioning Circle for circularity, but Circle as circle of friends is the second facet of what we're doing. I think it comes down to realizing that this project, this brand, can only succeed if it has people behind it sharing the values that we have. And so we realized early on that we wanted to do that with other people that, wanted to participate. And when we said, "Oh, we're going to create great technical gears, more sustainable," actually we saw lots of people coming, previous athletes, that I'm talking professional athletes that has done, won medals and things like that. And they knew that the gears they were wearing were having a bad impact on the planet. So they wanted to join the project. And so when we saw all those experts coming, we realized, oh, we don't have to do it alone. We can start, building that together with all the skills of everyone. And what was actually gathering us was our will to have a better impact, but also sports and running. So we could easily run together. And that's how this run club started. So we started running with people on the project, and then more people joined, and our first consumers or clients joined. And then all of a sudden we were running like 50, 60, 100 people. And our run club here in Paris has now more than 2,000 members. And we gather every week. And we offer, something that is fun, something that is still where you're going to make some progress, because one of our strong beliefs is you only, improve in what you enjoy doing. That's really a key motto for us. So that's why we want to bring something that is fun. Like, we don't want to be talking about sustainability in a way that is going to make you feel bad. We want to, if you look at the world, you can think, oh, where are we going? Well, we want to say, look, at least we're doing something that is positive. Join that positive mindset, and together we might make some move and shift things around, and maybe challenge some of the big dinosaur brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And this draws me to the thought of responsible performance. What does it mean for you when you're designing running gear?
It's a great question, Jack, and that was part of our learning curve. Like, if you take a step back, 5 years ago, there was COVID. Everyone was locked in. We couldn't go outside for sports, but people started to look at, their impact. They realized, their carbon footprint. There was lots of tools where you could calculate your CO2 emissions. So at that moment in time, lots of brands just popped in every, like, cosmetics, sports, and everybody was doing sustainable something, That was 5 years ago. Now, context is different. Economic, it's inflation. We have a context here in Europe of inflation, potential recession, things like that. So I would say that sustainability is no longer a priority for people. And therefore, we realize that sustainability is not a positioning as a brand. It's not. It's how you do things, but it's not what you do. We don't do sustainability. We do running gears. And we have to be, and that's why technical running gears has become our first priority. Because if you don't make a technical t-shirt, you're not going to compete against the others. Like, you're not going to go for a sustainable t-shirt just because it's sustainable. It has to be on par on all the other aspects, what its purpose, And then it's something that you've put your heart and your soul into, creating your supply chain to make sustainable gears that will put a differentiation. So the first thing that we have to do is technical gears. We think about our products in how they are going to be used. We test it with the community. We test it with professional athletes. we get their feedbacks, and when the product is perfect for running, we know that we're going to source sustainable material, and we're going to make it close to where we are here in Europe, with all UE regulation in terms of labors. So we have, more like transparency around how everyone that is working on the circle product in the supply chain is being treated or paid, or all of that. But yeah, we had to come to that realization. It took us 5 years.
For sure. And where do you draw the line between idealism and what actually can work commercially at scale?
Um, I think it is something that the ideal world, or my ideal vision of the company, is not a sustainable business. That's
Hmm.
something that I realize as well. So compromising is constant.
Hmm.
Most of our business is online, is e-commerce.
Hmm.
And so, for example, when I started, I also wanted to change how people behave with social media, because I think that part of something that is negatively impacting our health at the moment is our relationship to the screen.
Hmm.
But having said that, most of our marketing is on Instagram, because that's where people are, and we need to reach our target audience. So you need to compromise into what you believe in, and what is commercially or as a business viable. So that's only one example where, yes, we are on Instagram, but we shut down our Instagram for Christmas, and we tell people to go with their family.
Hmm.
Um, we When we make a product, sustainability, technical fabrics, and price point is something that when you do too much of one of them, the other one are being compromised and negatively impacted. So if we wanted to do French fabric, French made, the price point would be like too high, and nobody will buy our product. So it's
Hmm.
always finding the good balance between how technical you want your product to be, how sustainable you want it to be, and a price point that can resonate with your consumers. A quick example: you take a legging, a pocket costs two
Hmm.
euros. How many pockets do you want to put on your legging? For us, €2 here in Europe. It's not the same in Asia. But then you need to think
Hmm.
about how technical you want it to be, because it will impact the price very quickly. Um, we see some fabrics that are beautiful, but they are so expensive. Most of our fabrics come from Italy. Uh, well, sometimes we can't afford to put that on the product, because then you will not find a product
Hmm.
market fit. And that's why, for the first time here, our price point is between 65 to 95 for t-shirts. We've just launched
Hmm.
a new t-shirt that is 55, so €10
Okay.
cheaper compared to our current t-shirt. And that's because we want sustainability to be, for the wider audience. We don't want to be just a niche, selective brand. We believe that the more people can afford our product, the better impact we will have.
Cool. Sounds good. And I'll try to move this conversation more into the community style. But before that, how has your own philosophy changed from trying to make the perfect product to trying to move people into one and better system?
Um, I wouldn't say it has changed. I think it is currently changing. It is still changing,
Hmm. Okay.
because I think I'm each challenge I'm trying to tackle it one at a time, and I compromise a little bit and see, has that compromise been enough, or do I need to move further?
Hmm.
So it's not a a very hard, okay, you moved from point A to point B. It's really a journey of multiple points in between. So my philosophy is still very strong, but I'm just doing testing, you know. This new t-shirt I was mentioning is a test. If the price point allow us to have a better, sales through and a better impact, that means we need to find a way to offer cheaper products because we'll just replace more products in the market that have a higher CO2 impact. So yeah, it is philosophy-wise is still there, but the experience of my philosophy on the field is making me changing, one step at a time.
Cool. Sounds good. And in the market dominated by Nike and Adidas, how do you avoid getting pulled into the game you shouldn't really play?
Yeah, it's so we're at a point where there's a lot of what we call indie brand that managed to get to a sustainable business size. So usually when you make 2 to 5 million, you can be profitable. But nobody knows about you. You have a very niche community. Like we're known in Paris because of the run club, because of the community, because there's lots of running events. So you start seeing our products on people. Some people do win races, so it makes some word of mouth. But we're 8 billion on the planet, so you're still nothing. So I think the next challenge is how do you compete against those giants that have marketing budget we will never have, sponsoring budget that we will never have, because it's still a game where if you want your product to be worn by a professional, you need to pay that person, and it's a sponsoring deal. So we are trying to be smart. We're trying to we have a compelling stories where people are more inclined to wear our product than traditional brands. When they join us as a sponsor, they do it because they believe in our values. So I still think, and that's what we're trying to work at the moment, we need to scale that concept of value sharing and community. From, it's easy if I talk to someone, I can sell my product because there's some energy, human connection happening. But if I want to sell my product to a Korean guy, I'm not going to be in Korea talking, in Korean to sell my product. So I need to showcase my value and community to a much broader scale. And that's our challenge. How do we scale that model that has worked very locally into something that is broader? Because if we have a broader reach, we have a broader impact.
Okay, cool. And you are aiming for strong growth while keeping the CAC under control and moving toward profitability, based on what you're saying. Where's the tension more visible right now?
I think the tension from an acquisition standpoint is a dependency on channels of acquisition. And we are really dependent on the Instagram algorithm to put our ads onto the right consumer. So if you want to just scale through that, you're going to fail because your CAC, as you mentioned, is going to go to the roof, because once you've acquired your early adopters that are cheaper, converting someone that is not your key target audience, but the next circle of your audience is going to be way more expensive. And that's why you need to start to diversify. And one of the things that we've seen is retail is a very good complement to online. Since we opened our store in Paris about 16 months ago, which sales are really growing, it has just cement our relationship with our online community in Paris, because they have a place where they can actually see the product, test the product. And so there is a real synergy between online and retail happening here in our store. And plus it's the hub for our run club as well. So we're trying to really, at the moment, analyze what has worked really well on that model and see how we can replicate it in other cities, in other countries. So we're always going to be putting some ads on Instagram to support the launch, but we need to be having that physical presence, having some influencers, some ambassador, which are different type of profile. Ambassadors bring credibility around your product because they are really within the running community, and influencers, they're a bit more volatile. It's harder to find them because there's so many of them. So there's lots of test and learn with them, and then one is working with the brand, another one is not working. So usually you start by having maybe too many of them, and then you narrow it down to the one that really resonate with your brands and work really well. But for us, that's if I summarize it, keeping the online acquisition, but supported with physical events and maybe retail experience. If it's not our own stores, we try to do with a retail partner that can resell our product and organize events. And the third one is the influence/ambassador.
Okay, cool. What metrics matter the most for you when you decide whether something deserves more investment?
I think we look at all the traditional metrics, cost to click, cost to CAC, to acquisition. But one that we start to really look at is LTV, is CAC to LTV ratio. So yes, sometimes you can pay more for acquisition because our price point is high. Average basket value for us is 120 euros. Therefore, you can pay maybe 50 euros for a new client, but how does that cohort of acquisition behave over time when you launch new products, when you extend your range of products? So we, early years, it's hard to see your LTV because for us, you're not going to buy a running T-shirt every 3 months. We're not a business where you've got repeat business like a cosmetic, a shampoo, or things like that. So we have to wait and see if someone is going to buy a new T-shirt a year later. So now we've got enough years of existence to start to look at LTV as a key metric.
Okay, interesting. Has there been any tough decision recently where discipline mattered more than the vision? In terms of launching the products, in terms of maybe like your eventual goals, operations?
Yeah, some of the tough decisions that we had to make. For example, we had to stop some products. We like them, but they were not resolving the equation I was mentioning between technical, price point and sustainability. We had to move some product fabrication from Portugal to Lithuania. It's only 1 or 2 reference, but it makes a huge difference from a margin standpoint. And I think we are at a point where for each product that we make, we look at margin now. We look at, is that product sustainable in the long run? Can it become an essential within the line, or is it just an item that was used for marketing or commercial communication and is not viable, but had a beautiful story to tell, because of its sustainability. One of the great examples that we had to make is the shoe. We haven't talked about the shoe, but that was a 2-year project that we worked on, and we wanted to make a shoe that was basically made in Europe, which was the first time for like running shoes from natural materials, and we've achieved 75% of natural fabrics within the shoe using wool, castor oil bean, natural rubber. But most importantly, we wanted to resolve the end of life of the shoe. And how we did it is by making sure that we, instead of gluing, we've stitched some of the parts so that at the end of life you can easily disassemble the shoe, and some of them can be recycled, some of them can be reused, and some other part can be composted. So that was, from all of that was a great success. Like, and I'm still proud of saying we've achieved that. However, not technical enough for running. First thing, not sustainable from financially. At this stage, our margin was only 40%, and so we realized that for us to go into the footwear, it's going to take much more time. We need to work more and more, and to fine tune that equation, and to find the right balance between, having a better product from a sustainable point of view that is still, meeting the technicality that we want, and at a price point that is okay for a consumer. And our shoe was originally launched at 195. That was a bit too expensive, but that was, it cost us, 95 euros to make. So we had to find the right balance. And now it's 175 because we want to adjust the pricing to what the consumer is willing to pay. And we're not producing that shoe anymore. V1 is done. We are learning onto V2. We wanted to launch V2 this year, but we're going to postpone for an additional 2 years because that's the time it will take to make the right product. And that was a hard decision because, all our business plan was also made on, footwear becoming maybe half of the revenue. And it's, for the next 2 years, it will only represent, 2-3% of our revenue.
By any chance, was it the supernatural runner that you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Super. Okay. But what did that launch represent internally? I mean, externally that makes sense, but internally, what did it mean to you as a company?
It was the excitement of both bringing something to the market that was never done and resolving some of the pain points from end of life perspective that was never resolved. That was exciting because of all the partners that were working with us were really excited because even for them, that was something that, no other brand wanted to, had come to them to do. But at the same time, it was a lot of mistakes, failure, because we were doing things for the first time. And when you do something for the first time, you do mistakes and you can't really nail it at first go. So even our first production, we had a default or defect rate that was too high, so we had to work again, and money goes fast into those projects, and for a small company, it was probably a little bit too ambitious to launch it as early as we did, and we were not profitable, and we were launching a project that was representing in R&D probably 60% of our revenue. The budget for the project was 60% of our revenue, way too high for a company size like us, But that was the dream.
Absolutely.
That's what we wanted to do,
I mean, sometimes you gotta give it a try, right? And then see what happens, because sometimes dream can come a real dream, as far as growth goes, as far as your eventual goals go. So it's different,
Something that my associate always say is something along the lines that to do something you never did, to achieve something big, you need to do something that you never did, right? If you keep doing
correct.
what you're doing, nothing's going to change. You need to go outside of your comfort zone all the time. And that's what we did. We were outside of the comfort zone, learning as we were building. But that was a great experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And the bottom line here is that you have to stop the products that do not work revenue-wise. Sometimes maybe it's worth it marketing-wise, but revenue-wise, you gotta sometimes stop the work on the products and double down on the ones that bring revenue.
Yeah.
For you, how do you make these calls on decisions, like what to stop, what to double down on?
Yeah, well, it's very simple. Decisions are data driven. You need to collect the data. We do reporting on sales, cost of acquisition per product. I mean, we now have all the tools, right? We're using and even now with AI, you've got everything at hands to understand your business insight better, and make the decisions. Like, we know we have some products that need to change because they don't meet all the checks to continue. It's the same, coming back to the first discussion that we had during our discussion is around letting people go. It wasn't easy. It was probably the hardest decision. Like, we were 16, we are down to 11. We love the people that were working with us. Like, there was no doubt they were great human, but they were not providing what the company was needed at the time. I mean, we had a, wholesale. We were too small in wholesale to have one person managing that. We could, like, my co-founder and I, we could do it ourselves. We had one person dedicated to offline events. That was not something that was the right fit for the company. We're still doing lots of events. We've just changed the way we do things. We are being smarter, and we realized that with less people, we are doing better things. Less things, but better. Quality over quantity was really something that we've noticed.
And when resources are limited, how do you decide what absolutely needs build-in versus what can wait?
We use something we call objective key results. I don't know if you're familiar with it, OKR. So basically, we set up key objectives for the year. We have only 4. And if something doesn't contribute to those 4, it means it's not a priority. And those 4 are really simple: growing top line, improving margin, maintaining cost of acquisition, and the 4th one, which is for me the most important, is having everyone on the journey happy. And so we have KPIs for that. And if the product, the project, or doesn't meet that, one of those objectives, it's not a priority. So if you're doing something that takes time but does not contribute to top line growth, you challenge it. If you're doing a new product that doesn't meet margin targets, maybe you need to revisit how you do it. If you're doing acquisition strategy that is increasing dramatically your CAC, maybe you need to rethink your spend strategy, and better to spend less and maybe to grow leaner, but more of the time rather than a lot now. So yeah, we use that
Sounds
mechanism,
good.
and it's working well for us.
Yeah, I mean, we do pretty much the same, so I'm pretty familiar with the term. I mean, it's not 4. Most of the time we have like 20-ish or 30-ish goals. I mean, obviously they are not like key goals, but like growth obviously is one of those that is a key, but then you split it down into several breakpoints. Cool. Getting back to Circle, and to wrap it up on the resources side of things, how do you split execution between the internal team and the external support on the e-commerce side?
Um, can you give a bit more? How do you define external support on the e-commerce side?
So essentially, like if we were to speak about the number of people that support Circle, you obviously have a team of 10 that you have in-house, but then like, is it always the case that you always rely on this team, or do you utilize any external support for anything in your business? And one edge case being e-commerce, like supporting e-commerce or
Yeah.
supporting logistics, or like, I mean, external support, external extra pair of hands, if
Okay.
you will.
Good question. I think there's a couple of ways to answering. So yes, we do. I think we're building an ecosystem of partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
We try to work with people that share the same values and mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and are the best in what they do. One of the things, like we didn't mention it, but it's important for us. We're a B Corp certified company. That means that we want to contribute to building a new way of doing business that has a better impact on all its ecosystem. And so when we build the ecosystem, when we choose partners, we look at, if they're B Corp as well, that means that we share some of the same values. And then,
Mm-hmm.
so building that ecosystem of partners, obviously, for logistic, we have a great logistic partner. For
Mm-hmm.
tech support, like we've done our website ourselves. We haven't used an agency, but we do work with a developer that helps us, change the theme of our and develop new features onto the website. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with and sometimes it's you start external and then you end up internalizing because either the resource is great or it has become so key to your business that you want to be internal. But it's better to start external first and then internalize then. And we did the other way
Mm-hmm.
around before, like we were too many cooks to and so it didn't really work. But at the end, our business is making clothes, so it's a very manual. Like our expertise is sourcing fabrics, is making gears. So we're not going to revolutionize e-commerce. We need to work with the best e-commerce platforms and the best e-commerce expert. We know things, but we still have a lot of things to learn from external experts.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Um, Growth and revenues. You once said that getting to the first few million in revenue is one phase, but the real question is to how to break through and get into the next one. What does that second scale phase require?
Well, it need, it needs to clearly define what has worked in the first phase and what is a concept you can then bring to you can replicate basically. And so I was mentioning, for us, community is key. So how do you replicate community? Sense of belonging to a community is difficult. Uh, your community can be online, offline, a bit of both, but that's how you need to think, for us, great gears, running clubs, a physical retail store. How do you replicate that? Because what
Mm-hmm.
I said require capital, right? You can't just do it without that external financial need. So we are at the stage where we want to show that we have a profitable value proposition, and we
Mm-hmm.
are planting some seeds in some other places or countries or cities, and showing that now if we have the right capital, we can turn on the execution, and then we can replicate the successful brand that we have here in Paris in other cities: London, Amsterdam, Lyon, Bordeaux here in France, Seoul, Tokyo, and so on and so forth.
What does success look like for Circle 2 years from now beyond just numbers?
Ah, and I think it's coming back to something that I've realized and I had to realize. It's better to have a small impact on a lot of people than to have a big impact on a small number of people from a company standpoint. As a company, as an individual, it can be different. And I love to have one-on-one conversation, because you can have big impact on one person. But as a company, that's what we want. We want to basically put our products in as many as possible, because you've mentioned Nike or other brands. If we convert someone from one of those brands to Circle, it's a success. It's a success for the environment. It's a success for our planet. It's a success for changing people's mind about how we should do things and how we should be together as a community. Share moments. It's not just converting to a product. It's slightly changing the way, like people that buy Circle product, they want to belong to what the brand stands for, not just wear a product. So it's a massive win for us if we have more people joining that mindset.
What would have to be true for you to feel like Circus has really shifted the category, not just built a nice niche brand?
That's when we come back to numbers, unfortunately. Numbers,
Yeah,
tells how
numbers always matter.
successful you are. There's many ways of, answering that question, but brand awareness. I'd be more happy to have people being proud of what we do than just wear our product. You can be not running, but still, thinking that what we're doing is doing it the right way. And I'm going to be best example I can give. I get a lot of students contacting us for their work project. So yeah, they could be future consumers and buying our product in the future, but they're not right now. The price point for a student of our product is nowhere near what they can afford. But they want to work on Circle product, like company, because for them it resonates with what type of companies they want to work with in the future. And that is a massive win. We're making change at the early stage of someone's career. And so, if a student and a group of students ask me either an hour of my time for interview or to walk into a class, to do a case study on Circle, I always say yes, because I know I can have a huge impact on, their career and how they're going to be impacting more business. It's the ripple effect. That is beautiful. I think as an entrepreneur, I take more pleasure into helping other entrepreneurs and students because I know that circularity, the model that we've built, can be applicable to other businesses. This model needs to be open sourced.
Cool. And this is a great time for me to wrap it up with my final question. For any founders who leads the consumer, the values-led consumer brands, what do they need to unlearn early, from your perspective?
One thing that brings to mind is the company you're building, that you might call your baby or your company, at some point will no longer be your company. And the earlier you detach yourself from your company and do the best thing for the company and not the best thing for yourself, is going to be having a massive impact. I'll give you an example. I'm not doing t-shirt for me. I'm doing t-shirt for my community. And so I'm not choosing the color that I love. I'm choosing the colors that they're going to love. The fit, I'm in between S&M in my own company. I don't have my exact fit in my own gears because I'm not a normal size people. I'm a bit small and large in shoulders, right? So I completely detach myself from the product. I have the right people that are doing product design, and I trust and untrust them with their job. And I try not to interfere and tell them what I would love or what I would prefer, but let them, do their job. And I think that you need to detach yourself. It's not your baby anymore, after the first few years. It's walking on its own, It's like accepting that, you've got a teenager that is trying to learn his things on its own, because I'm a father as well. And that's, you can't always just protect and trying to replicate yourself on your kids. You need to let your kids do their own experience and become their own person. it's the same with your company. Let it grow into something that you might think is different from what you wanted, but is having the impact that you want, making your consumer happy, are the two things that are most important.
Alex, thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I really loved it, and appreciate um, appreciate your thoughts on what it is to build a company, a meaningful brand. These days, it's not about purity; it's about coherence, right? Knowing what you stand for while being able to make the replacements very easily. Being in the market with lots of dinosaurs while building the community, being disciplined, um, and it all matters to build a brand in these years. Alex, thank you so much for joining the show. For anyone who is listening, I'll leave the links to the circlesportswear.com down below, as well as the links to Alex LinkedIn if you want to reach out and touch base and get some advice. Alex, again, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you very much for inviting me as well.